Hello, I'm Dr. Basil Considine, and I'm here from the ACU Online Writing Center. And today we're going to be talking about how to refer to and how to apply multiple models when writing in APA style. Now, this is something that usually comes up in an advanced or upper division undergraduate course or in a graduate or professional program course where you're looking from multiple perspectives or trying to address a complex and multifaceted problem that one single model or one single approach will not solve all the problems. And there's a very simple way to keep these straight, to refer to them clearly in APA style that we'll be talking about today. If you're new to the Online Writing Center, we work through students in a variety of online programs. We have multiple points of contact, including webinars such as this, answering questions, providing resources like sample papers and templates, and also through writing feedback appointments. All of our services are completely free. If you want to sign up for an appointment, just go to my.acu.edu under Resources, select Online Writing Center, and follow the instructions from there. If signing up for an appointment, you have two basic choices, whether you want to have a real-time appointment or a non-real-time or asynchronous appointment. An asynchronous appointment, you sign up for a particular time, you upload a copy of your paper, and any special requests. Up until the point where that appointment begins, you could, if you had more time, go and revise your assignment and upload a new draft. But when the time rolls around, we go ahead, take a look at it, and send you feedback, generally within 24 hours. If you sign up for a real-time or a real-time appointment via phone or Zoom, then we'll be giving you the feedback in real time, either by ringing you on the phone or doing a Zoom session where you or we can share our screen and talk about things. Which you request really depends on your schedule and what you think would be best for what you're doing. Sometimes we have students who have a lot of questions involving the formatting or a lot of back and forth things, and so they prefer a Zoom appointment where they can see the screen. Some people prefer to ask more general questions because they're conceptualizing a larger work, and so they prefer to ask by phone. And other people will go back and forth between asynchronous, phone, and Zoom depending on where they are. I have one student who liked to schedule calls with me while they were being driven home because they could be on the phone and ask and give their full and undivided attention. Please don't do that if you're the one who is driving. If you do want to get in a session, we can always tweak our scheduling so that you're not splitting between keeping track of the road and trying to keep track of your writing. Again, there's no charge by default. Students can sign up for up to 2 appointments per week, availability permitting, and you can make appointments in week 0 in between the terms, as well as during all the weeks of the semester. Something to keep in mind, we do have a tabbed course guide on our page. So if you go over to the Writing Webinars page, at the top there's this calendar listing of webinars for the term. Scroll down, you'll see this tab guide so you can easily find things related to your program. For example, if you're in the FAMO program, just click on that and it'll show you a sorted list, sorted by course number, and then within that by the week for the assignment, and see anything that we have corresponding to that. We also have, of course, many things on more general writing topics, and you can do a word search. Say if you're doing if you're doing a literature review, you could go ahead and search for literature review, and you'll find that we have webinars in multiple programs. Perhaps not your specific one, but the general principles will apply, and we have both general and assignment-specific ones. Same thing if you're doing an annotated bibliography, or if you're writing your first compare-contrast essay, or other genres like that. And if in doubt, you can always send us an email, and we'll let you know what we have related to your topic. You can also request webinars of particular topics too, which we're happy to do, time permitting. You'll see me referring to our APA course paper template later. We also have a YouTube channel for watching our videos on the go, and a blog where we explore different topics. Alright, today we're going to be really focusing on how to understand how to refer to models in APA style. There's a particular assignment we'll be looking at for that, and so to illustrate that we'll be looking at the drafting, but really we're going to start with those core principles. So, how do you refer to a model in APA style? Well, this is a question that has two facets. how you would name it in the sentence, and how you would refer to it bibliographically, you with your parenthetical citation and the references information. It's actually pretty simple. If you're writing in APA style, when you're referring to a theory or model, you'd use sentence case to refer to it, such as, according to Freed's 2021 theory of attrition, according to the servant leadership model, Greenleaf 2010, the ACE pyramid model emphasizes. So if we were to take these apart, so Freed 2021 is saying, okay, if you look up this reference, if you take that author and that date and you go to the references list and look up, you'll see, okay, the information I'm telling you about the theory of attrition is coming from there. Same thing with the next one, according to the servant leadership model, parentheses Greenleaf 2010. Now, this also means that there are cases where you might have secondary literature that you are citing that is written by someone other than the original author of the model, in which case you might have something like, according to Greenleaf's servant leadership model, parentheses, Smith, 2020. That's fine. But in most cases, the combination of the textual name, servant leadership model, and the citation will tell the reader enough to go and find what they need. But if you're discussing, say, multiple servant leadership models by different authors, then you might be using the according to Greenleaf's servant leadership model to contrast it with, say, Bingham's servant leadership model. Now, if you're wondering why the ACE in the ACE pyramid model is capitalized, that's because it's an acronym. It's a sort of abbreviation, and the acronyms get capitalized in APA style. But even though you might see it in a book written as ACE pyramid with the P being capitalized, the way that APA style treats that with sentence case is that it would be written just as it is here, with the pyramid and model being in lowercase. Now, if you are using a survey instrument, a test, or an assessment, APA style formats those in title case, which can be a little bit confusing if you have something that is related to it. Like, say you have the servant leadership questionnaire, and that is the actual name of the survey instrument that you're using or referring to. And the name of the servant leadership questionnaire would be in title case with the S, the L, and the Q capitalized. Or in this case, the multi-factor leadership questionnaire. That is the actual name of the survey instrument, and it is treated as a proper noun in APA style. Hence, we're using title case to capitalize that. Okay, now at this point, we're going to switch gears and we're going to look at a sample assignment. This one is coming from the FAMO program, and let's go take a peek. So this is FAMO 452, the Parenting and Family Skills course. And if we're to jump over to look at the Week 6 Assignment 1, Fragile Handle with Care, we have a number of things. And well, let's listen to the assignment description, and then we will talk about what it's asking you to do in terms of the model and how that might translate to how you're referring to it and describing it. Okay, we start with a preamble for the assignment. Purpose. The family is viewed as a system composed of interconnected individuals. We have already established the bidirectional influences between parents and children. The concept of balance or equilibrium applied to family system raises the question of how well it deals with challenges to normalcy. When the disruptions of life have a negative effect on family stability, the family could be considered as fragile, high risk, or vulnerable because of economic, health, psychological, or social factors. Alright, so let's kind of set the mood. This is the kind of thing that this assignment is talking about, that's dealing with. Let's look at the actual instructions. This writing assignment requires you to define and expand on the idea of fragile families based on the family's inability to handle stressful situations. The discussion of families functioning under stress must follow the model of the phases in family functioning presented in Chapter 12. Let's pause there. So if you were referring to this in your paper, you would say phases in family functioning, all lowercase, phases in family functioning model, and then in parentheses, you would have an author date citation to wherever you got that from, in which case this is going to be the course textbook. Now, the course textbook happens to be written by Bigner and Gerhard, and it was published in 2019, So your parenthetical citation would be Bigner, ampersand, Gerhardt, comma, 2019. Okay. Now we see a step-by-step instruction for what to talk about where. Begin this discussion with a description and explanation of the ABC model of stress. Words that are important for this assignment include disruptors, catalysts, union instability, and different types of abuse. So this is an instruction that's saying, hey, make sure to discuss these specific things. Use this terminology, this exact terminology, when you are referring to them. The instructions continue. You must also include how the ACE pyramid, which again, we'd be writing that with the word pyramid being in lowercase and followed by an author date citation, how the ACE pyramid provides a theoretical model explaining the impact of disruption and stress on the individual family members. Helpful terms include sandwich generation, cycle of violence, non-accident trauma, and emotional and verbal abuse. Again, this is a listing of things that you should be including, that you should be specifically discussing and identifying with these specific terms in your paper. And because we are talking about APA style, non-accident trauma, the non-accident per APA style rules, you would not hyphenate it. It would be NONACCIDENT, no space, no hyphen. Alright, this should be 1,300 to 1,500 words, so that's going to be approximately 5 to 6 pages in APA style, and should be formatted according to APA guidelines. So that's 5 to 6 pages of content, not counting the title page, not counting references pages. And if we look at the breakdown of points here, so out of 140 points, more than half is, have you examined the contributing factors underlying the label fragile family and explained the ABCX model and the ACE pyramid. Okay, so that's, have you done the basic content? Now we have a seventh of the points, 20 out of 140, to is this arranged in a fashion that communicates clearly, with specific discussion of, are the paragraphs organized? Are the sentences making sense? Is it in a logical order where you can see that this is building? Great. And then we have the sentence quality. So and this is again about the larger quality control. And we have excellent mastery of edited American English, including have you remember to spell check it and to run a grammar check, and then some APA formatting. So overall, we see that this is an assignment where the rubric tells us quality matters. Quality really matters to the extent that 50 of the 140 points, that's more than a third of the grade, is this written and formatted well, and have you done your due diligence in editing it to make it high quality? And if you're looking at that and say, well, that's something you have some trouble with, then please go ahead and make an appointment with us at the Writing Center. We are more than happy to help you with that kind of thing. It does help if you are working on this assignment, if you come for feedback sooner rather than later, because often there's multiple rounds that people go of revision, and if you are still getting the ideas down on paper, it might take a little longer for you to be able to formulate your thoughts and get them all out clearly and then format it correctly. If you're making last minute changes, it's more likely that you might introduce another error that's not caught. You give yourself an extra day for taking a look at it when your eyes are fresh, then that's usually a little better for quality control. Alright, so let's go ahead and now look at how this might be arranged. And for this I'm going to go grab a copy of our APA course paper template. So I have here a copy of our APA course paper template, and the first thing that I'm going to do is title this page. And if you are someone who struggles with titles or you're not sure what to put there, APA style should be descriptive and accurate first, and there's less of an emphasis on is this an elegant or poetic title. Tell us what it is. Now if I were to just write that in and turn it in, I probably would lose some points here because families, clearly I have not remembered to run a spell check. So what I recommend if you are someone who works better if you just focus on getting all the ideas first and then go back and correct, just make sure you have a reminder on a post-it, on your alarm, whatever it is, to actually go and run the spelling and grammar check. For most people, I recommend that you do it as you work, but if your workflow is better, if you save that to a stopping point because it impedes your flow of ideas, then you know yourself better, and so work with that. Well, I'm going to go ahead and put my information in here. And then I want to check. Okay, this is for FAMO 452. Put in the instructor, the day that this is being turned in. And whatever you've chosen for your title here, make sure that it matches what you put at the start of the body of your paper. That's a very common mistake that people make, where they have two different things there, and then that's not what APA style says to do. It's inconsistent, and so you lose a little credit. So if you tweak one, make sure you tweak the other as well. All right, so let's go grab a copy of the instructions for this assignment. Now, if I go ahead and I just paste the instructions here, you'll notice that it's in a different font. It's not formatted quite right for the template. So see this little button here? If I click on that right after pasting something, I can select Match Destination Formatting. And now it's correctly double-spaced. It just looks like it should in APA style now. Now, the purpose here, this is more giving us a center, a focus for what we're writing about rather than the specific things we have to. But it's good to keep an eye on it to see what kind of suggestions you have about what to talk about or what not to talk about. If I look through this, I see, the concept of balance or equilibrium applied to family system raises the question of how well it deals with challenges to normalcy. That sounds like the kind of thing I might want to be writing about in this paper. Alright, so I'm just going to start crossing off some things that will help me focus on what I'm being asked to do. Define and expand on the idea of fragile families based on this. Okay, follow that specific model. And okay, so that's helping me understand what this is supposed to be written, what it's supposed to be covering, and to create an outline. So in this case, I know we're going to have an introduction. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to bold this material so that it's clear what is in the original instructions versus anything that I am adding. And since all the assignments should be in APA style, I'm just going to go ahead and cross this out so I can focus on the things ahead of me. I might also go ahead and say, all right, well, I'm just going to change this to not being hyphenated so that I don't worry about repeating that mismatch with APA style later. All right, so if we look at this and see, okay, I'm going to have an introduction. And so I can set up bulleted here. What am I going to mention here? Well, I'm going to have to talk about the families functioning under stress. I'm going to have to mention the phases in family functioning model with the A citation there, which is going to be for Bigner and Gerhard. So if you know that you're going to be citing a specific source when you're working on your outline, just go ahead and put that in right now. And I know I'm going to have to be mentioning the ABCX model of stress, and also need to be discussing the ACE pyramid. Now, the introductory paragraph, or paragraphs, depending on how long your paper is, should lay out a roadmap of your paper. What are the things that you're going to be discussing? And whatever your thesis or central idea is, make sure you state that either at the beginning or the end of the paragraph. All right, so I know I'm going to have the introduction, and then I'm going to have the main body. And this is where I can start going ahead and carving this up into different sections as here. So here we have, Okay. Begin this with a description and explanation of that. And then we have some sub-points where we need to make sure that we mention and discuss those things. And then there's a separate discussion of the ACE pyramid. And for this, we must make sure to mention those other things that are listed here. And to make sure that we get them, we should probably have at least a sentence, if not more, discussing them. Probably even a short paragraph for many of these. And you can go through the reading and find, okay, here's where that is discussed. Now I'm going to write about it, and I'm going to cite the source for that reading here. Now, let's look back at where we started with discussing a specific model. So how do you refer to it? Well, if you recall from our slides, we are going to be referring to it by name and citing the source of it, the source that we got our information about it. And what you're going to say, I'm not sure what your study will be, but it's probably going to be something like the ABCX model of stress states that, or emphasize the importance of, and then you'll have other details about it. Okay, what is it used for? Perhaps you'll talk about how it's being tested. And when you're referring to this, okay, where's your source of that information? Now, if it happens to be Bigner and Gerhard, then we'd cite them there. If you did additional reading, you'd cite whatever that other source is. Now, for the ACU pyramid, well, let's talk about how that would look here. And if you're not sure what source you're going to use to back up that specific thing, say there was multiple pieces of reading that you wanted to refer back to and you weren't sure which one, you can always put in this placeholder here and then go check later to find the exact source that will go there. But if you're just trying to get the basic structure of the thoughts here, you don't need to have that citation in here now. Just make sure you add it later and make sure that it's the right citation for this. Okay. Now, something that might come up, you might want to use an image, a figure, to show this thing that you're talking about so that you can refer more concretely to that. Now, you could, of course, reproduce a figure from the course text, but let's look at what it would look like if we were looking for a diagram of this. So if I just go and do a Google search for ACE pyramid, you can see that it suggests many images. And I can go ahead and look at images here and find that there are many different visualizations here, some of which have different levels. So, for example, this one here, we have adverse childhood experiences on the bottom, and that is followed by social, emotional, and cognitive impairment, adoption of high-risk behaviors, disease, disability, and social problems, early death. Now, that's the same one as here. The labeling here is slightly different. We've got this label for whole life perspective. This says birth to death. So that's much the same. But if we were to look at this image here on the right, we have more levels in this pyramid. And so it's important to make sure that you are coordinating your resources. And if you are in fact discussing this more extended thing, to make sure that you are identifying so it's clear why you have more than, say, might have been referred to in the course textbook. But let's say that you were going to be citing this one here from the Centers for Disease Control. So there are a number of ways that you can integrate this image, but let's start with, we're going to copy this into our clipboard, and we're going to go ahead and paste it here. Now, here we have a number of elements, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see it more clearly. And to simplify the formatting later, we are going to take this and we are going to pop it out of the bullet, and I'm going to do a little cropping. You can see how there's this white space on the sides. Well, in APA style, we would like this to be flush with the page margin here. So if I right-click or Control-click if you're on a Mac, and I select crop, I can go ahead and remove that white space there. And I can even remove a little more white space here. Now, you don't want to have excessive images. You're supposed to be writing 5 to 6 pages of textual content. But if you find that an image helps you explain things more specifically, especially if you're referring to elements of the image, then you can certainly, in APA style, incorporate it. Just check with your professor to make sure that they're okay with you doing that. But in general, most assignments is fine. Just you don't want to have pages and pages because its focus is supposed to be your argument. Now, something else to be aware of here is that you don't just insert a figure in APA style. You also should be referring to it. And there are a couple different ways that you would be doing that. One is you want to caption this. So we're going to add a figure label. This is the first one. That's going to be figure 1. And then a title. Now it happens that this has the title there at the bottom. But we want the title to be at the top because that's what APA style says it needs to be. So, mechanism by which adverse childhood experiences influence health and well-being throughout the lifespan. Now, something you might notice is that we have here some slightly different capitalization. And I'm going to go ahead and resize this, both because we don't really need this to be half a page in height to be readable, and also because it helps us see what we're talking about here. So notice that I've capitalized the word which, capitalized the first letter, and in well-being we've capitalized the B in being. So this is following APA style capitalization rules for a title case. So even though the original title may have had a slightly different capitalization, we are modifying it to follow APA style when we list it up here. And now that I've added that here, we can go ahead and crop the image and remove the title at the bottom because it would be redundant to have it at the title at the bottom and at the top. Alright, so the next thing we need to do is to acknowledge our source here. And that's something where, if you're not sure how to do this, we can follow a model on the APA style website or on the APA 7th edition manual rules. Now I've gone to apastyle.apa.org and I'm selecting tables and figures. And we want to see some examples of this, so we're going to sample figures. And maybe these specifics here, what we're looking for is one that has an example of a citation showing where this came from. And so in this case you can see the format is the title of whatever it came from, name of the authors, publication year, where it was published, how to access that, and then who holds the copyright. Okay, well, this image that we grabbed of the ACE pyramid, so this is coming from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention website, so we can just click on Visit Here, and that will open this up. Now, if we look at this and we see, okay, data and statistics, and major findings, we can look at, oh, look, there's another graphic showing the adverse childhood experiences. So if we're looking through this and trying to find different graphics here and where to source them from, so here, this is listed on this web page, and when there's not a separate author listed, the website that is publishing takes what we call corporate authorship. So we would list as the author here the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. So going back to this, what are we going to call this? Well, we're starting with what the web page is called. This particular web page is about the CDC Kaiser ACE study. Okay? And if you need to check, just look back here and we see, oh, okay, so the title of the piece that it's taking from is in title case here. All right. And so this is going to be about the CDC Kaiser ACE study. And if we look back at this example, that's going to be followed by the author names. Looking back, the next thing that we have to list is going to be the publication year. And we see that this particular page here, we have last reviewed. That's not telling us when it was published. So we will have to go with N period D period, which is the abbreviation we use for non-datum, which is not dated. And if we look back here, next up there, if there was a page number, we'd give it. If there's a link, we'd give it. And copyright, that's going to be well, here's the funny thing. You might think you need to put a copyright there, but if it's federally published, it is actually in the public domain. So instead of putting a copyright notice, as would normally, because this is a federal publication, it's automatically in the public domain, and we just put that instead of, copyright this year by this group. So now you would also want to have a entry in your references section for this, which is why we'll go ahead and look at how to do that next. So remember, anything that you are citing or referencing should be listed in your references section. All right, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, that's our author. The publication information, in this case saying we don't have a date, that goes in parentheses there. And then here, study will not be a proper noun here, so that's why it's in lowercase. And then we include the link. And there we have it. We have our corresponding reference entry for this image that we have included here. Now, if you are listing the course textbook here, that is, again, the Bigner and Gerhard. So let me show you what people often do by mistake. So if we go look at the course syllabus, we have this here. Looks good. So you grab that, you select it, and then you copy and paste into the document. Well, first of all, we have the wrong font, so let's go ahead and we'll select Keep Text Only. And now let's look through it. Well, we don't include the ISBN number in APA style, so we take that out. And we no longer include the city or state, so we take this out as well. And then the title of the book, in this case, will get italicized and stay in sentence case. And a lot of people will submit this and think that's good, that's done. There's one more step. See, in APA style, when you're listing multiple authors in your references, even if there are only two of them, you still need to put a comma before the ampersand here. And so, if you are citing the course textbook, and I imagine that you will be for this assignment just because of the things the instructions tell you to refer to, then make sure that you put this comma here and you have Bigner, comma, JJ, comma, ampersand, Gerhard, comma, C period, J period. And make sure that there are these spaces in between the initials. Alright, I think we should be wrapping things up now, but the instructions give you a very clear order for things to discuss. And so let's just talk about some resources that you might use to help make sure you have a well-crafted argument as called for in the instructions. Now, earlier this week, we had an offering of our perennially popular Beyond Summary, Adding Analysis and Synthesis to Your Writing webinar. And this is something where you can watch the whole thing for a well-rounded look at how to craft strong argumentative paragraphs that are using evidence. And you can also go to one of our related resources as well. For example, the Synthesis and Consequences that looks specifically at how you combine information or apply information to a scenario. For example, applying the readings to a family and how to refer to those with clearly grounded arguments where the reader knows where this information is coming and what to do with it. All right. Now, you can also look for a brief summary here at the no tiers plan that we talk about in the Beyond Summary webinar. Basically, when the instructions for the course ask that you have strong paragraphs, and strong paragraphs here are defined as fully supported with details arranged logically and effectively, introduction is notable, very effective paragraphs, development of ideas, conclusions and recommendations are significant. So how do you do those things? How do you make an argument that shows that? Well, part of it is how you structure your argument and how you show how this is fitting together. So the no tiers plan is one mnemonic for understanding that you start each paragraph off with a clear topic sentence that states what your claim is that you'll be supporting. That you follow up with evidence or argumentation with, of course, citations for any evidence that you're referring to or discussing. Analysis, where you discuss it and show how it connects to your topic, repeating that as necessary, repeating the evidence and analysis. Synthesis, where you discuss what these things mean when you put them together, when you consider what this means or how it should be applied as a whole. And then, if you're done with the argument, a concluding or transitioning sentence, so we see how these connect to the next part of your argument. Now, there's more detail on this in the rest of our webinars, but let's go ahead and bring things to a close for now. If you have any questions, please feel free to send us an email at onlinewritingcenter@acu.edu. If you'd like to schedule an appointment, just go to my.acu.edu under Resources, select the Online Writing Center, and follow the instructions from there. And feel free to check out our website to access our webinars, templates, and other resources. And with that, I bid you good day.